Well, good morning, good day, good evening, good night, wherever you are on the planet. This is John Dupuy, and I am, as you probably know, if you've been watching the series, the CEO of iWake Technologies. And this is Javi with me, my ever faithful companion and partner in all these conversations we're having. He's in Spain, Asturias, and he's a CTO of iWake. And we have with us today Jane Whitner, who is the co-founder and national sales manager of Wilde. And if you guys haven't ever played around with this thing, and I literally mean play, you're in for something really exciting. We've known about it for years, and it's really unique still after all of these years. So let me read it. Jean, hi.
Hi there.
Let me read her bio, your bio really quickly. So just to give people an idea of who you are and what you bring to this conversation. Jane Widner is the co-founder and national sales manager of Wilde, one of the early leaders in the emerging lifestyle technology market. Wilde is an online, real-time interactive community that enlightens, educates, and entertains. Wilde combines ancient wisdom with modern technology to create tools designed to help you transform your life. Many of the techniques that they teach have been around for thousands of years. Wilde is not the only way to learn these things. Wilde is the fastest, easiest, and the most effective way to learn about them. With the help of experts like Dr. Dean Ornish and Andrew Wilde, you will learn about meditation, visualization, intentions, and affirmations. Right on. So, Jean, how did you get into this?
Thank you very much, first of all, for having me. I do want to actually just say I'm not one of the co-founders. I am the co-owner, but not a co-founder, because they deserve all the credit in the world for that. My husband and I have been the stewards of Wilde since 2008. And the original founders actually started the company back in 2004, was the first product that they brought to market. But how we got to be involved is kind of an interesting sort of wayward ping pong ball sort of story. My husband, Kyle, had gone through kind of a spiritual awakening or transformation, if you will. And this is back in 2007, actually, he was registering for a healing event that was being, run there in San Diego as a seminar. And while he was there at the facility registering in the gift shop, he saw one of Wilde very first programs, the Journey to the Wilde the Passage. And he picked it up and he looked at it and he went, wow, because he's a gadget guy. He's always been a gamer, very computer savvy, early adopter of all sorts of technology, and picked it up and went, wow, so it's a game and it teaches you how to meditate. Well, this is pretty cool. So he went ahead and he bought one and he came home, he played with it, fiddled around with it, thought it was really nifty. Fast forward then into 2008, where his expertise was actually in internet marketing, and I was working in a completely unrelated field. And we sold the business, though, that we built up in early 2008. And then when he just sort of kind of sat back and said, okay, what do I want to do next? What is going to be the next thing that we undertake? He knew he wanted to do something in the personal development field. He knew he wanted to do something that would take his skills and allow him to maybe help other people. And then sure enough, about 6 months later, we got a phone call from a friend of ours who had been asked, Wilde had asked for some assistance, and he thought, wow, they could really use Kyle's skills. And so one thing led to another, and by the end of 2008, we became the new stewards and the new owners of Wilde and have been ever since. So,
Jean, can you give us just a brief description or a long description, if you want? What is Wilde? What are we talking about here?
We're an emerging lifestyle technology company or product, if you will. Really, a company. We're part software development, part biofeedback, part spiritual or consciousness technology. We kind of are rolling all of those things in there. And, our real goal is to help people better their lives, naturally harnessing their own inner wisdom, their own inner power to help them learn to not only just relax, to relieve, to restore themselves, but to also to help them rejuvenate their mind and their spirit. And life has so many twists and turns for all of us. And at the end of the day, I think what more and more people have realized is cultivating your own inner resilience, your own inner faculties to help you weather life's storms, and also to help you celebrate and appreciate when things are going really well, and to be able to just be appreciative and grateful for where you are, even if you're struggling with things. People, I think, are hungry for that core attachment to their lives. They want and need that grounding. And so we're just one of the ways that are out there to help people do that. We're just one of the tools in your toolbox that you can turn to help you gain inner strength and inner resilience, not only physically, but mentally and spiritually as well.
All right. So now we were using Wilde, I don't know, 12, 14 years ago, quite a while ago. And we had a meditation group that went on for years and years up in our house. We have a meditation room. We get there and we sit together for 40 minutes. And then somehow this Wilde came into our lives. And so, you'd attach a little finger electrode or whatever that is, and it would measure, I'm not sure what it was measuring, but you'd move through this landscape, this gorgeous landscape, this virtual, and to do certain tasks, you would have to lower your heart rate, you'd have to calm down, settle down, get into a meditative state. So the idea is you had a biofeedback that was not just numbers or graphs or something on a computer screen, but an actual landscape that you could virtually connect with. And what was really amusing or quite interesting is that we had this meditation group, and there were a couple of people that were seen as the meditators, the models, the teachers or something like that. And when we were playing around with those guys, couldn't get to past point A. I mean, it was just like, nothing would move, nothing would change it. And the so-called beginners were hopping things and moving things around. So I thought that was really, really very interesting. And and since then, I don't know if there's been any other games or interactive things that have ever been created like that. So it's still very unique in the field. And I hear that it's progressed a whole bunch since we began using it years ago. And I can't wait to check out the latest iteration.
Yeah, there's been a lot of forward progress, I would say, since the initial games. I mean, we've had to adapt, to new technologies. I mean, we have moved now to a hands-free ear clip, and focused our training, really around the heart rate coherence and heart rate variability. Those are kind of nerdy terms that, if people are interested, we can talk about later. But,
which is kind of hooking up the brain and the heart in some kind of coherent pattern. And we do that very powerful, transformational, good things happen. That's short.
Exactly. Yeah. And the thing of it is, what we do and what our approach is, it's twofold. Is number one, you've got the feedback capacity for it. Like you had said, sometimes people are very surprised. We'll get letters from users who will say, God, I've meditated for years, and your system showed me that I maybe wasn't actually as relaxed as I thought that I was. It's the ultimate show me tool for a skeptic, for someone who thinks, oh, meditation, yeah, okay, it's not for me. I tried it once, it didn't do anything. The thing about it is the science of biofeedback is long established. That's a 40, 50-year-old science by now. And training your body to learn how to follow very specific cues, to learn how to relax yourself, and to do that with the help of, like you said, graphs or biofeedback, whatever form that takes, is very, very important. The other side of that coin, forget about the scientific aspect of it. Let's talk just about meditation. I think that there's a huge misunderstanding out there in the world at large about meditation. People think meditation is about emptying your mind of all thought, which first of all is ridiculous and impossible. So what we're doing is we're giving you one more thing for the monkey to do. The monkey is here. The monkey wants to generate thoughts. That's what our brains do. We are never going to shut that down. What you can do, though, is give the monkey something to do that helps reinforce the thing that you're looking to experience, which is a quieter state of mind. It's not going to be silent, but it's going to be quieter. And other things are going to float away. And from that place is where, number one, biologically, we enter into this, incredibly rejuvenating physical state when your breath is very consistent and deep and regular in a state of quote unquote coherence. All sorts of wonderful transitions happen in the body. But then you also get that quieter place going in the mind. And that's where you can sort of drift your mind off into a creative place. Sometimes you'll be contemplating something and you'll get that inspiration. That'll be that aha moment. Or sometimes it's the place where you drift off and you feel like you connect with the divine, where you just feel completely transformed and utterly at peace for at least a few minutes out of your day. And those experiences are not small. And what's even more important is they accumulate over time. The benefit from meditation comes from doing it regularly. And I think as a meditator, you probably know all of that yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I harp on it so much that people are sick of me saying it, but it has to be a practice. So absolutely. Yeah.
Yes, and it's practice for a reason, right?
Yeah. And I can just imagine this has, many applications, people suffering from anxiety disorders, PTSD, addiction, which has been a large part of my work in the last few years. It's in the anxious states when certain neurochemicals, norepinephrine and CRF, cortisol are high, that the cravings really begin to take over and beat a person down. And when you can go into these deeply relaxed states, more mindfulness kicks in, and you're able to get through the craving spell. And I could just imagine this would have just all kinds of interesting applications in. And you have the automatic feedback. So you're not just imagining it or you're faking it or whatever, you're right there. And I imagine with time that you can just begin to do this more automatically or at will when you need to just get into that centered place. And in that centered place is a place that we get wisdom from. We get the insights. It's been clear in my practice lately that you can't solve problems on the level that they were created. I think Einstein said that you have to up level it. And for a lot of these knotty, karmic, emotional, relational issues that life is always faithful to put in our face, if you just stay at that level and try to work it out, you'll never get there. It's just like, going around in circles. But from these higher levels of, or deeper levels, whatever way you want to do that, at that point, you can begin to resolve these things from a more wise, more informed, more transcendent, and not so just ego stressed out projection, old stories, etc. that we would normally fall into.
Absolutely. And I think I'm so pleased that we're living in this time right now, because meditation is being taken very seriously now by science, and it is being incredibly researched and studied at levels that are unprecedented. And, be it, the Dalai Lama and his monks, undergoing MRI brain scans, so that they can see the changes in the brain, to more common studies with, like you said, applications for mindfulness-based therapies or meditation in, pain and, other, be it physical or mental illnesses. And so that's a really exciting time for us to be in, that the average physician is starting to understand that people are looking for answers regarding self-care, and that all of this is a part of a complementary approach in how we take care of ourselves as humans. Yeah. And it's all up to us. I think that's the other big change is that, I remember even 20 years ago, it's like, oh, there's a pill for that. Well, look what that has done to our culture. That's sometimes there is a pill for that. And I am not dissing Western science by any stretch of the imagination. Thank God for Western modern medical science. But there's also a point in time when you look at truly healthy, what healthy looks like, both physically, emotionally. It really falls down to us. We're the only ones who can create it, inside of ourselves. And I think that you have a massive sea change in the general population where people recognize that and they understand it and are starting to embrace, just like we know we need to get sleep. We know we need to eat right. We know we need to move, we know we need to meditate. And
Absolutely.
more and more people are starting to understand that and understand that it's a part of a cohesive process for us to maintain our best selves.
Yeah, and we just have with the technologies, which is what all these conversations we're having are about. We just have opportunities to optimize our spiritual and emotional growth in ways that, first of all, we're starting to understand the human brain like never before. We're living in a time that just really starting to get, how this thing functions. And we're probably just on the edge of it, Ben. We're seeing so much more than they knew 10 years ago, 15 years ago. It's really remarkable. And now we have these technologies that can really come to our aid to help us grow in ways that are balanced and profound and life enhancing. And I wouldn't be here having this conversation without this technology. I mean, it literally saved my life. I was very, very depressed. And I don't think I could have gone living that way for very much longer. And so, thank God. And it's really extraordinary, the opportunities that we have to use this. And I love the way that this is a game because, the gaming world is enormous right now. Mm-hmm. It makes more money than Hollywood. I mean, it is big business. And a lot of it's really, it can be very addictive. There are treatment programs springing up around Europe, United States now to help people who have internet and game addictions. So this is kind of the other side of that, the other side of the coin, how we can use this technology not to escape reality, but to get more deeply in touch with reality.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, first of all, we know what our technology has done for us. We're far more productive. We can do and see a lot more. Look at this conversation that we're having. We've got an international cast and crew right here.
Yep.
This would not have been possible, even 10 years ago, I really think, So let's also, though, take a look at the way technology has invaded our lives. We have a 24-hour news cycle, which means they have to have something to talk about. We have, the invasiveness of our phones and every other bit of technology into our lives. And what we're doing is we're saying, okay, technology is here. Let's embrace it and let's try to do something good with it. And let's try to have some fun with this thing. That's the other really, I think, important thing about what we do and our approach to meditation is, it's such a serious thing, this meditation bit. I've got to sit here on my cushion. And it's like, it doesn't need to be that at all.
It's kind of grim.
It's like we can kind of relax with this whole thing and have a little bit of fun with it. And I mean, that's, that is what we're doing. I mean, it's like in Journey to Eagle Mountain now, you fly like an eagle and you have all of these very technical kind of flying skills that you're supposed to do with the mouse in order to buzz against the animals and gain all of your points. And yet you're supposed to do that. And you're supposed to breathe and try to remain relaxed and try to remain coherent at the same time that you're trying to complete this very technical skill. And then it's also just this huge, gigantic, beautiful map that is Eagle Mountain. And then there's all this cool stuff to find and all these things to do. And, I've had people write us just saying, I just like flying around.
Nothing wrong with that. No, but it sounds like you're training people to go into flow states, because that sounds like what you just described, the description of these ultimate high levels of performance that we get into sometimes, whether we're writing or we're talking or teaching or playing music or sports or rock climbing or whatever it might be. It's just totally relaxed, very relaxed state, yet at the same time completely present and in this zone where you just kind of intuitively know what to do. And sometimes it almost seems you know what to do before it's even consciously in awareness. You're kind of seeing beyond the next step before it's even presented itself. So.
Yes, exactly. And it's also helpful for like performance anxiety. It's the same kind of, gear shift that people go into sometimes, like kids that are struggling with test anxiety. Sometimes it's like, okay, you know this, lots of people struggle with this, adult students and children alike. It's like you covered this material, you know it, but then you sit down in front of, somebody who says, now you have to do it in 20 minutes and, they fall apart. And it's the same skill set. You're trying to learn how, as you said, the flow state, you're trying to learn how to be able to at least somewhat turn that on and not think about the performance that you have to pull off, but just think about, I know this, I've got this. And having that kind of confidence that then compounds upon itself is huge. It can be life altering for people. So it's working on all of those things.
Wow. Javi, I'm really into this conversation, so I don't want to neglect you. Any comments or questions?
Yeah. First question. Hi, Jean. I suppose you do, but do you get many kids using this? Because it sounds like a lovely way to teach kids.
Absolutely. That is a huge part of our market are either kids who express an interest, although usually actually it is a parent or a grandparent or, family friend that introduces them to it. And I mean, the letters that I see back, from parents and teachers alike is what's so important about our games is that they don't do that addiction thing. Like any parent knows when they're sitting with their kid and it's like, okay, you've had your 20 or 30 minutes of reward, time doing the PlayStation or the handheld device, whatever it is that you want to do. They talk about, getting that kid to then set that thing down and walk away from it becomes, a real, struggle. And, parents will write us and say, that's not true with your games. They'll say, okay, my kid sat there and played and amused him or herself for, a good 20 or 30 minutes. And then when I said, okay, it's time to go, do your homework or whatever, they'll just be okay to just set it down and walk away. And that they start to see transformation in their children just kind of gradually over time. And in our culture, it is the best way, I think, to start to introduce kids to, the notions of mindfulness. When you look at the mindfulness programs that are in schools out there, and there are a lot of really wonderful programs, again, they're giving those kids that visualization or something that takes them away from, again, here, Johnny, sit on a cushion. It's not going to happen most of the time, but this is a great way to introduce it to them. Absolutely.
Do you find that they learn the skills any faster than adults, as is typically said? Do you find that with kids?
They do seem to embrace it. I think they embrace it differently. Children have a much more, first of all, they struggle a lot less with the technology. I mean, let's face it, the average 3-year-old practically knows how to get onto mommy's lap and check the email, they fast track right through, the technology and the setup as far as that goes really quickly and very quickly figure out, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. What I find when we engage kids in this is how quickly they do. It's like the benefit starts to register with them physically in ways that, of course, they don't necessarily always have the self-awareness to track.
Right.
Us as adults, we understand it's like, oh, that guy cut me off in traffic and I didn't even get mad at him, We understand when our self-regulation improves. For children, of course, it's not that, their brains aren't literally still under construction. And so the lack of awareness for that isn't as apparent to them. But by the time we get into teenager level, I do start to see, counselors and parents, writing back to us saying, my high anxiety child is a lot easier to control, or that the child will themselves start to say, I just feel better.
But while the young kids may not be able to observe their own, can parents see changes from the outside in the behaviors of the kids?
Yeah, absolutely. And
it's a wonderful alternative to television or other kind of computer games that can really have negative effects in a lot of ways. And, I know many parents who have very lofty ideas about child rearing until they have children. They're going to be outside playing in the dirt and the mud and in the forest. And then they're they're watching TV. Oh, thank God they're watching TV. A lot of the survival, the survival tool of television for parents often kicks in. And what a great thing to have them doing something that's actually building an interior capacity to deal with life in a very effective way, and possibly, we don't know, but keeping them off the more negative paths of drugs and violence and all the things that our kids have to deal with growing up now. It's really shark infested waters. So tremendous.
Yeah, it is a different world. It is definitely different from when we grew up, but then again, do all of us say that as we get older? I don't know, but
I was a disruptive wreck when I was a kid, so I was on the cutting edge of anything negative I could get into. So
maybe you can explain a little bit more how the software measures all that. What is heart rate variability, what is galvanic skin response, and how does it correlate with our inner states?
Sure, absolutely. I'm happy to. So to get in under the hood into the nerdy scientific part of things, what you're working with really is primarily, of course, your heart rate. And from that, let's start here. Every time we inhale, our heart rate actually increases. And every time we exhale, our heart rate decreases. And so it goes up and goes down and goes up and goes down. And so if you start to plot that out on a graph, if you will, you're going to start to see that sine wave form. So that's your basics of your heart rate. Now, heart rate coherence, which is one of the major things that our software is training for, is it's actually measuring the periodicity. In other words, the length of time in between either that bottom point, if you will, or the high point. And in that frequency is about a 10-second range for most of us. Some people it's a little higher, like 10.5 seconds or 11 seconds. Some people it's a little bit lower, but for most people, training yourself to about a 10-second interval in your breath cycle and being able to start to then maintain that deeper, slower, and more regular breath, that is a coherent state.
So that's 10 seconds in, 10 seconds out.
No, 10 seconds, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out for a 10-second span. Sorry.
Okay, great.
And so that's what you're wanting to kind of work toward in that coherent state. And that's when everything starts to hum along in the body. When you're in a coherent state, your bloodstream has exactly the right amount of oxygen in it, which means then every single organ can fall into line. Your brain is going to function more clearly. That's what gives you that flow state. That's where it's just, that's where you want to be. And it is, of course, the optimal time for that parasympathetic nervous system, which is, of course, the part of our brain that allows for all of our higher thought processes. And it is also the place that allows for us to have the emotional connections. Here's a funny thing. Going back to then our emotional state, positive emotions can help put us into a coherent state. Negative emotions prevent us being in a coherent state. It's one of the reasons why when we're stressed or when we're upset, it's really actually so very hard for us to calm our human body back down, because if we are upset, our sympathetic nervous system, which is the fight or flight mechanism, feels threatened, and it just grabs hold of the body and it grabs hold of the mind because all it knows is it's threatened. Coming back down from that through breathing, through gradually putting yourself into a coherent state, is how you transition between those two. It's sort of like a hinge there in our nervous system. It's either this one is in charge or this one is in charge. The parasympathetic nervous system, which is what we're engaged in right now, and it allows us for all of our higher thought processes, all of our ability to connect emotionally with the people around us. That's where we want to be. Now, back to the other question, how does the software measure that? Well, the software is actually taking all of those little bits and bizzles and bells and doohickeys and transitioning that into the software in kind of a back end way. And what we do now to keep it real easy for people is we set a difficulty level, and we also allow you to customize that breathing cycle. So you can set it at what's comfortable for you to train with. Maybe when you start, maybe Maybe you need an 8 or a 9-second breathing cycle, and you start to feel like you're over breathing if you put it at 10. So you can start back, and then gradually work your way up. And then you know, in all honesty, it does become just sort of a math equation. At that point, the software handles that on the back end, but then what it gives you is the feedback through a different way. So like, for example, in the Villa Serena program, your job is to go into this virtual villa that has been allowed to become all run down and dilapidated. And what you do is you make repairs to the villa. So you come across this little repair station and everything is all fallen down, and you sit there and you breathe in time with the breathing prompt, and everything floats back up into place and becomes all restored and repaired and beautiful. And it happens right in front of you. And it's just the program doing the math for you, only instead of graphing it out, it's giving that to you in a visual way.
And you're feeling success in restoring something to beauty at the same time. So that's a really nice feedback loop. How long does this take for somebody to become, to master these abilities if they're using this? On average, I know that's hard to say. Ballpoint.
Well, let's put it this way. I've been playing with this stuff since 2007, and I can't say that I'm a master.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'm pretty good. I mean, obviously I can achieve a coherent state, you know, pretty quickly, and I can tell when I'm on and I can tell when I'm off. But I mean, to actually start to, the biggest challenge I think for people and for all of us is go ahead and try to play this when you're upset, you know, about something.
That's right.
You know, go ahead and, you know, force yourself to sit down and say, okay, you know, you read an email, something upsets you, you know, and you're like, oh, I've got to deal with that, but I'm just too furious right now. Sit down, you know, and give yourself 15 minutes in front of the computer, and you're going to watch. Actually, your feedback loop is probably not going to be that fabulous at the beginning. You're going to watch yourself sit there and look at all those bricks on the floor.
So you try to achieve centered rage, right?
Exactly. But, you know, that's the thing is, it's like I said, you know, earlier, it's called a practice, you know, but the point is to, number one, learn yourself and know your tolerances. And, you know, whatever they are, and then be able to learn to improve upon them. You know, it's a self-paced, self-regulated program. All of our programs are, you know, and whenever we encounter someone who's got questions for us, or that we, you know, they're feeling high anxiety. It's like, I can't build the bridge with my breath, you know, like, don't worry. It's okay. It's okay. Just do the best you can today and go back again tomorrow. And then sooner or later, you're going to find that you can build that bridge. But, you know, we do try to make it easy for people to start. That's why we have a variable difficulty level. They can start low, and then they can challenge themselves very highly at the end.
So this is all online now? There's no more disc and this sort of thing? How does one begin to do this?
Oh no, we still have all localized programs. We still have plenty of localized programs. We do have a virtual world called Wilde Divine Online. It does have a lot of our programs in there, but then like most of what we've developed this last year, we've gone back to a localized computer format just because, you know, some people don't have fabulous internet connections and what have you. So you can have the best of both worlds. If you want a live interactive virtual world, we have that in Wilde Divine Online. Or there's everything that we sell on our website that you can just locally install. Yeah,
so you'd have to, at least to get started, you have to get the ear clip, right?
Right.
And that plugs into where you put your headphones in normally?
Yeah.
How does it?
Yeah, it's I don't know if you can, it's a standard little, the IOM with a USB.
Oh, okay, so it goes in USB thing, then you plug into the green thing.
Right, yeah, you plug that into your computer and then you put on the ear clip. And then that's all that's required to do now to play. So you're totally hands-free, and you know, then you just fire up whatever program it is that you want to use, whether it's a game or a guided meditation program, and off you go.
Have you had schools or treatment programs or things like that adapting this technology to help with, well, to help with people be happier and more functional?
We do have a lot of professionals and schools that use our program. We've been very blessed with that. I mean, it's important to note that, we're a consumer level device. We're primarily for education and entertainment purposes. We don't diagnose or cure anything. That said, we've been very fortunate to be a part of various programs, be they, small clinical, private practitioners, to large hospital units all over the country and indeed the world, as well as schools that have embraced our technology. And I think the educational market is really, I see a lot of news out there these days about more and more mindfulness programs being embraced in schools here in the US as well as in the UK and Australia. And so I think it's an exciting time. And once again, like I've said, we are not the only way to learn how to meditate, but we're a fun way to learn how to meditate. And, we can just help make that process a little bit easier for most people and a little less arduous.
Yeah, I just saw somebody would have flying anxiety, saying, a fear of flying, to have their little laptop on, and just and train themselves and have a spiritual retreat while you're flying to.
Yeah, absolutely. I've used our product on an airplane before, and I've seen others use it as well. So.
Yeah, and I would imagine it would this all it's like our culture has been so exterior oriented. We've had no interior training. It just hasn't been part of what we do. And I've been a meditator now for 10 and a half years, right, a daily basis, almost always. And I just can't imagine how I functioned in the world before having kind of an interior capacity to go in and sort things out and tap into my, my sense, my spiritual self, if you will, and my sense of guidance, and work through all my issues that the world is faithful to present. So yeah, and I could just see this as such a, I'm an athlete also. I love to play tennis and I work out a lot, but I could see this as being a real just a training program, or military or police or anything. These people that, especially in those dangerous kind of, positions where if you don't have your stuff together, somebody's going to get hurt, needlessly. And just the interior training, or the capacity to regulate oneself so you can be clear and make the right decision in the moment, be relaxed yet very present. It's just like key.
Absolutely. I when you said that, I just remembered, I believe it was last fall, I read an article. I think I could be wrong, but I think it was Madison, Wisconsin. The police force was starting a mindfulness-based program. And I thought that was really cool. I think we put it in our newsletter. So definitely we are in use in the VA hospitals. That's one thing that I know is beneficial. And we do have letters from vets, who, again, they've come back and they're struggling to, reacclimate, and, mindfulness and meditation is definitely, and yoga and all kinds of things are being embraced by the military. And that's huge. So.
Hopefully, the Commandant of the Marine Corps will be watching this, and we can start a mindful Marine Corps, it'd be a great thing to have. Javi, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Sure. Yeah. I was wondering, do you have what are you doing now? How are you expanding the technology? Are you thinking about making apps with the same thing, or maybe the ability for groups to be hooked up in the same session? Or what's the future?
Wow. Okay. Big question. We do actually this year we came out with the Ion Blue, which is basically the counterpart to the one that you just saw, and that is on iOS devices. So we're only right now in the iTunes store for iPhones and iPads and all of that kind of stuff. But we do have 5 applications, one of which is free that you can download from the App Store, and the others range in price from $9.99 to $29.99, I think is our most expensive. So that has just come on board. We do have more possible apps that are going to be in development. I can't say too much there. An expansion or some other type of thing for the online virtual world. Within Wild Divine Online right now, we do have 2 group meditation areas, one of which is called Manifestation Challenge, where actually people can come in at any time that they want to, and they can meditate. And based upon their quote unquote mindfulness score, which is sort of a mathematical computation on what their coherence was for that session, be it 5 minutes or 20 minutes, whatever, they get their mindfulness score, and they can actually use that to vote to have a particular charity. There's like 10 that are up on the board, and people vote for a donation that Wilde Divine then makes to said charity. So through that, we've given money to Amnesty International, Wounded Warrior, International Herring Dog is the one that's going to win the next one, it looks like. I mean, all kinds of different charitable charities have benefited from that. So that's kind of cool. And then
that's
also,
really brilliant.
Oh yeah, it is.
Really, congratulations, that's great.
It's been really fun. And then we do have group meditation sessions in another place called Arcadia there. And those start on the half hour, and people can just go in and meditate together as a group. And so, you know, we do look at new technologies. I mean, there's new things out there in the platform that we use to develop, where we have looked at a virtual world, like updating that same thing and bringing it into this new, more 3D technology. There are new things on the board. I just don't want to trap myself by saying which one or will or won't be done next. Or But yeah, it's an exciting time. I mean, definitely group meditation is something that's been proven that people do seem to want. And I think there's a growing comfort with a virtual environment that can be safe, that can be secure and anonymous, but yet also give people the benefits of meditation and have a lot of fun.
Yeah, and there's just something, whether you're, you know, all meditating in the same room, my experience, or meditating with people online, there's definitely a field of energy or experience that's created when we do it together. And it was hard, being very much a introverted loner a lot, you know, I've had to learn to do that. And when I do that, go against my natural inclinations, I'm very blessed, and it's very useful.
Well, yeah. And I mean, that is being studied. I mean, that is actually a real science. Even heart math, I believe, you know, has, you know, documented the fact that one person breathing in a coherent state seated next to another person, it actually does have a way of lending energy, and the entire room can, again, be assisted by each other to help achieve that state, you know. And I know that there are nerdy little scientific groups out there like Noetic Sciences and others that are studying to see if that happens long range. So yeah, who knows?
Yeah. Thank you so much. This is such a perfect example of what we organize this whole summit to be about, you know, spiritual technology and emerging spiritual technology. And I hope a bazillion people watch this, and you know, this just keeps spreading out, because it's one of the, we have a friend, Jurian, what's his Compt? Is that his last name, Pam? Mm-hmm. Anyway, who has a magazine, the Intelligent Optimist, you know, and he's from the Netherlands, but a standard journalist, and you know, he just got sick of just, you know, the 24-hour news cycle, negativity. So he started this whole news magazine and network that has the positive things that are going on in the world. And this maybe not as dramatic as something, but it's very, 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 very exciting. And you present it with such a presence and clarity that, yeah. So you must be using your own stuff, or I'm not sure what, or you'd figured it out before you took over the company or something like that, but you definitely could feel it.
No, this is getting to be the steward of Wilde Divine, co-steward of Wilde Divine along with my husband, is one of the great joys in my life. And it's been a magnificent journey, and who knows what lies ahead. So, and
yeah. So anyway, here I Awake, you know, we dig you, and any way we can support you, you know, through this and in the future, we'll just have to do that, because it's a really good thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on this show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And Hobby, do you have anything in closing you'd like to ask or say?
No, just thanks so much. It's fascinating. I only tried a similar thing a few years back. You know, I don't know, maybe it was a heart math, one of those little games in which you have to enter coherence. When I was getting to know this field, and you know, I'm just thinking about the many possibilities, especially for kids, because they're going to grow in a culture where they're going to hear about meditation. For many of us, it didn't happen for many, many years, and if it gets incorporated into the visual culture that they use, I think it's magnificent. So just thanks for doing the work. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's our pleasure.
Thank you, Gene.
The next clip I want to share with you is from Relaxing Rhythms. It's one of our most recent releases, and it features the talents and guided meditations from wonderful people such as Thich Nhat Hanh, Pema Chodron, John Kabat-Zinn, and a great many others. This combines the very best of Wild Divine. You have wonderful content and guided meditation, as well as our biofeedback style gaming. So here you can take a look at that here.
Welcome to Relaxing Rhythms 2, an entirely unique whole-body wellness program. Rediscover your body's natural ability to relax, relieve, and restore itself for a happy mind and body. Relaxing Rhythms 2 can be used with any of the Wild Divine biofeedback hardware, including the iOM Personal Edition. Simply plug it into the USB port on your Mac or PC computer. We've combined our biofeedback technology with expert guidance from renowned mindfulness masters, including Thich Nhat Hanh, Pema Chodron, and John Kabat-Zinn. Relaxing Rhythms 2 allows you to quickly experience the benefits of active well-being and balanced living. You will transform the rhythms of your mind and body as you enjoy our beautifully immersive biofeedback activities and progress through our 10-step training program. Let's look at one of these practices now.
This is the first exercise on breathing that the Buddha gives to us. When we practice like that, something wonderful happens. We stop the thinking. And this is a miracle already, because in our daily life we think too much.
The simple act of monitoring your mind and body can have a profound effect on your overall well-being. This 10-step guided training program can be tailored for your individual needs. You can personalize your breathing cues and difficulty settings easily. Then they are instantly ready when you begin your next session. Your progress is tracked so you can see your improvement over time. Once you master an activity, you'll naturally return to refine your skills and re-experience the deep sense of relaxation and joy you've created. As you learn new mindfulness teachings, you'll find emotional healing and transformation that will awaken you to your new self and a life filled with joy, confidence, and ease. The key to a happy mind and body is in your hands.